The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
If you really want to doge, this is how you doge. You don't vote for bad legislation that expands government. Thank you.
Now we're talking about taxpayer money, and we're talking about accountability. It is their money. This isn't a government program we're actually spending on. We're actually giving it back to the people of Idaho.
There's other options for making our ballots more secure, such as using watermarks or putting holograms on the ballots.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
I asked the question rhetorically, if we gave them another $1 billion, they wouldn't be happy. Well, we've given them $2 more billion, and it's not enough.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
The other states like Texas and Florida have enacted similar laws to address illegal immigration, both locally and in their communities. And Idaho has the right to protect itself when the federal government has failed to do that.
COVID presented us with quite the enigma. We didn't really know what it was or what to do, but that is no excuse to violate the rights of the citizens of the state of Idaho.
Say vote no on this and let the teachers teach and quit bringing in coaches to teach the teachers to teach, and let's get education going again in Idaho.
I don't know what's coming after this current administration for the feds, and we need this law because our federal laws on immigration have failed.
Mr. President, I think it's incumbent upon us to allow parents to use their hard-earned dollars to provide what's best for their children.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
My concern is that the resilience of Idahoans who believe in self-reliance and self-responsibility will be eroded.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Yeah, watch it.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome in Idaho. It's Idaho Signal. I am Matt Edwards, and we're back. I thank you for joining the program. Are all cylinders firing? Are we all firing here? Are we ready to go? Very good. Today is Wednesday. It's the Wednesday show, but it's also Ash Wednesday. So to our Catholic brothers and sisters across Idaho, may this season of reflection bring you closer to Jesus and his never-ending grace. We're glad that you are tuning in as well. Now, let's talk about yesterday's hearing in the House Judiciary Committee on House Bill 602. This is basically, in layman's terms, an effort to keep Sharia law out of Idaho's courts. This bill came about after months and months of concerns being voiced by the grassroots as we watch communities across the country grappling with how to handle the influx of militant and radical Islamists. Last summer, a citizen and a good man in Idaho County reached out to me, worried about the potential threat that Sharia law could pose to our state. And we talked through the different options, because I agreed with him, on how to curb any of the inroads that lie ahead. Petitions, social media campaigns, meeting with legislators to find a friendly ear and hopefully sponsor something. Long story short, we settled on drafting a resolution that somebody could present to a central committee and make it up the chain of the party. That someone ended up being me, and I am a registered Republican. So last fall, I went and presented a resolution to my county's Republican Central Committee here in Kootenai. It called on the legislature to simply ban Sharia from our legal framework here in the state. It passed unanimously that night. Then it went to the state's party's winter meeting, and it passed there as well with overwhelming support. All that momentum helped back the demand for what other legislators were already working on. When word got out, it was just everybody had an idea for this. One such bill debuted earlier this year was Senate Bill 1233, and it died on the Senate floor last week. But we still have on the House side House Bill 602, which steps up with a clear preventative approach. The bill would add a new chapter, Chapter 6, to Title 73 of the Idaho Code, declaring that Idaho's public policy is to protect citizens from foreign laws that violate fundamental rights guaranteed by the U.S. or the Idaho constitutions, such as due process, freedom of religion, speech, press, privacy, or even marriage. It defines, quote, foreign law as laws from outside the U.S. Or its territories, excluding tribal laws and English common law. And it makes any court ruling, contract provision, or choice of law clause unenforceable if it relies on a foreign law that denies those same protections. The bottom line here is, folks, no foreign law gets a foothold in Idaho courts if it undermines our constitutional freedoms. And that includes, primarily, right now, Sharia. This is a smart, targeted way to safeguard our legal system without overreaching. So yesterday, the hearing in the House Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee gave us a full look at the arguments, the testimony, and the debate. We're going to play the entire hearing for you right now so you can hear it unfiltered, hear the testimony from some supporter, any of the pushback, and the committee's entire take. Listen closely, because this is how we keep Idaho's courts grounded in American law, not systems that are hostile to the United States and Western civilization. So we are going to dip in and watch this entire hearing. It lasts approximately 15 minutes, and then we'll have some analysis for you when we come back. So sit back and watch this.
You're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make this quick because I need to leave. Mike Moyle, District 10. We're blessed to live in the great country we live in, the United States of America, and in the state of Idaho. In our country, the U.S. Congress makes the laws that govern all the land. And in Idaho, we make the laws that govern here in Idaho. And together, they work to govern us all. A concern has happened lately as we've seen some actions in other parts of the country where laws other than those created by you all in the U.S. Congress are being used in courtrooms. What we're trying to accomplish with this bill is to make it clear that in Idaho, American laws will govern in Idaho courts. It's that simple. We don't want some of the concerns we're seeing elsewhere in the country to infiltrate Idaho. We just want to make it clear the laws you create and that Congress creates are the laws that we will use in the state of Idaho in our courts. With that, Mr. Chairman, I have to go because the last one lasted a little longer. So if it privileged the chairman, I would like to defer to Representative Tanner to continue the debate. And I thank you for the opportunity to be before you today, and I apologize. It's kind of fun watching what you debate in your committee, though. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for being here. Representative Tanner.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. I'm Steve Tanner from District 13, Nampa. And this bill, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just sort of like summarize this bill in sections real quick, just for familiarity. But it's just what this bill is. It's very straightforward. It's a statement that makes the case, for the primacy of American laws in American courts. What is a foreign law? It says on page 1, line 25, the following. Foreign law is a legal system from a jurisdiction outside the United States. Simple. And also says on line 30 that does not include the laws of American Indian tribes. And then also I'd like to point your attention before we go through it all to look at the section called applicability at the bottom that kind of carves out some exceptions. It's like what we're not talking about. So under page 2, beginning in line 39, this chapter shall not apply to corporations, partnerships, limited liability companies, etc. Number 2, this chapter shall not apply to a contract entered into prior to the effective date of when this act becomes law, and then provisions of this chapter shall not be construed to limit First Amendment exercise of freedom of religion. So we're not going to any of those places in what I'm going to say here. So what I'd like to do is just kind of like point to the various sections of this. That you see in there, there's a section that's called Foreign Law Enforceability. So basically what that is just a statement, saying that, the public policy of the state of Idaho is basically that if we were to ever to use a foreign law, if ever be an arbitration panel, a tribunal, anywhere that uses a foreign law, that in any way limits the fundamental rights of a resident of Idaho, rights such as the right to privacy, to marry, due process, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, press, and so on, not an exhaustive list at all, then such law shall be, or a decision made by a court using that kind of law is void and unenforceable in Idaho. Plain and simple, that's state policy. Then it talks about, the choice of law. In cases where there are contracts, where a private party gets into a contract, and the contract specifically, calls out and says, look, if there's going to be a need for arbitration, if we need to decide on any problems here, we're going to use the laws of a foreign country. We're going to use, South Africa, for example. The laws that prevail there. And then the decision is, if the court were to allow that, then and they would violate the fundamental principles that I just read over, then that would be void and unenforceable in Idaho, right? We wouldn't accept that. Under the section called jurisdiction, it says that if a contract selects that a specific court would have jurisdiction over an Idaho resident, then, and the same thing there. If it violates the fundamental rights and principles, guaranteed under the Idaho and U.S. constitutions, then, those would be void and unenforceable in Idaho. And I'm just thinking of like a case, for instance, if you went on a cruise ship and there was if you read in a contract, there'd be an arbitration clause, it said, okay, well, all disputes are going to be handled in again, South Africa, so, those are the kinds of things that that section talks about. And then there's the final section, which I hope I pronounce it right, the forum non conveniens, but this is different. This is not where a contract decides, the kind of foreign law that's going to be used, or maybe a specific court where a foreign law is used. But in this case, a person says, I think I could do better if I could get this case transferred someplace else. And so that's what this person decides. So in all of those cases, we're saying no, the Idaho constitutions and the U.S. constitutions, they're going to prevail. They're going to prevail. We're not going to let you, in any case, state policy, we're not going to let you override, the rights, the basic rights and privileges of a resident of Idaho. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Representative Gannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Tanner. So what about if we have a treaty with a foreign country that would affect the laws that would be applicable to a particular situation? Do you have any legal opinions or evidence that this particular proposal could supersede treaties that the United States may have entered into?
Chairman, Representative Gannon, so when you say, I want to be sure about your question, you say that treaties we may have, you mean we, the United States, or?
The United States, yeah, I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman and Representative Chandler, yes, treaties that the United States of America may have entered into, maybe regarding nuclear waste, or, I remember several years ago, Kuwait, there was Kuwaiti sand, nuclear contaminated sand that came to a depository in Elmore County. Mm-hmm. I don't know which law is going to apply there, but if there was some kind of international agreement, could could this bill create a problem that, or a conflict that, such a conflict as would create a problem for all of us?
Yeah, Chairman. Representative Gannon, I would think that would fall under the first exception that we talked about. That's under the applicability section.
Okay. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
yeah.
maybe you got some legal opinion or something that would help. I don't know.
Did you have a follow-up, Representative Gannon?
Yes, one other. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Tanner. One other thing that I recall is back in 2014, I think we enacted, the legislature enacted a law that affected child custody and child support internationally, and basically said that, as I recall, that the state of Idaho would not respect the state of Idaho courts would not respect, say, a Bosnian court or another courts, and we got into a lot of trouble, and we ended up having to have a special session. Mm-hmm. Did you, or could you, take a look at that and make sure that we're not getting into some kind of situation like that again? Because, or maybe somebody has already analyzed, and I don't mean to put all this on you, because you've obviously had some legal help here. And
you have a response, Representative?
Chairman, thank you. Representative Gannon, you said that was 2014, correct? That was right. So if that was the contract entered into, and back then it would not be touched by this, because this only affects contracts going forward from the point of time that this gets signed.
Representative Hawkins.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we introduce House Bill 602 with a due pass.
That's Representative Ehart.
And Mr. Chairman, Representative, might I offer a quick lifeline?
Point of order real quick.
Yes, Representative Scott.
Thank you. It was to introduce. He had a motion to introduce. It's to send to the floor with the due pass.
Oh, I did not listen. Representative Hawkins, do you want to amend your motion?
Well, if I do this properly, I will seek unanimous consent to remove the motion I just made incorrectly.
Is there any objection to the request? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we send House Bill 602 to the floor with a due pass.
Thank you, and thank you, Representative Scott, for that. Now, who did I call on next?
Mr. Chairman, you had called on me, and I can save it for discussion or offer a lifeline, having had this legislation also, so to the questions asked. Yep. Mr. Chairman, Representative, in the first one that the good representative asked regarding treaties in which we enter into, certainly there's obviously the supremacy, but also those treaties are not, those are treaties that probably would have zero to do with Idaho, and they're foreign treaties that would have nothing to do with this. And as far as the 2014, I think it was 2015, again, we're also talking laws governing what we do right here. Oh. And so I don't think there would be an effect at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Hill.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I had a comment. I just want to bring the fact that the Speaker worked on this, the Majority Leader worked on this, and multiple other people worked on this. This has been in action for years with a lot of real smart people looking at it. It's really important, and I think it's very precise. I think this is an awesome bill. Obviously, I'm on the list, but I think this is a great bill. We were trying to get this out for 10 years, and I think this is awesome. We got this going.
Representative Gannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Tanner. So I did get a lifeline answer to the question about treaties. If you take a look at page 14, line 13 through 16, somebody did address that particular concern, and they are apparently...
Representative Gannon, could you state that page again?
Page 3. It's page 3, line 13.
We're missing some pages.
Yeah, they gave me the wrong page. But Matthias gave me the wrong page. But apparently treaties, somebody did notice that particular issue, and treaties are exempted from this particular bill, which is a good idea.
Thank you for that follow-up. Okay, seeing no further red lights, Representative Tanner, you may take a seat. We do have one person to testify before we take a vote on that motion. Caleb Pierce. Welcome to committee. Identify yourself, who you represent, if anyone, and continue.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Caleb Pierce. I serve as General Counsel for Idaho Family Policy Center, as well as the Director of its Legal Center. Here today to support House Bill 602. Courts have long grappled with how to handle conflicts of law in scenarios in which the parties or facts of the case require the application of some law other than the law of the forum state. Different approaches have been used, with legal academics debating the merits of each approach. But what scholars have agreed on is the importance of some version of a public policy exception that limits the application of foreign law when it conflicts with the state's public policy. That's all this bill does. It codifies and expands this approach to handling conflicts of law, providing clarity for Idaho's judiciary on when foreign law would violate Idaho's public policy and be inapplicable. The American legal system has fostered human flourishing like no other legal system in world history. Our founding fathers built our constitutional order upon the English common law and the Christian view of higher law. These men were guided by their belief in God and a legal tradition which traces its roots back to Moses, St. Thomas Aquinas, Sir Edward Cook, and Sir William Blackstone. This enduring legal framework has served to protect our God-given rights even to today. And protecting that system of American law in Idaho courts is essential to ensuring the continued common good of the citizens of Idaho. We're grateful for the efforts of the sponsors to ensure that Idaho courts continue to apply that legal framework in our courtrooms, and we urge you to send House Bill 602 to the floor with a do pass recommendation. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions? Mr. Pierce, you ripped through that pretty fast and well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, see no further red lights properly before the committee. H602 has a motion to send it to the floor with a do pass recommendation.
All right, folks, it did pass committee, and that bill is on its way to the floor for a vote. Are we good? You guys got me? Volume well? All right. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Brian Allman will join us in a little bit, but we do want to catch you up on some other news that's going around town. So we'll shoot it to you guys in the booth, and we'll be right back.
And that's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among the world's silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
All right, folks. Tomorrow, it's here. The day is here. It's tomorrow. We will be at the Capitol for Capitol Clarity. Special thanks to Idaho Freedom Foundation for letting us take over Capitol Clarity this week. That is tomorrow at 12 noon, the lunch hour. Bring your lunch. I don't know. Can you bring your lunch inside? Probably not. You probably can't bring your lunch. Don't let me say that. But do come on by, and we're going to talk about door knocking. We're going to be talking about how to make your message the most effective when you're out there knocking doors. So we'll have a few colleagues on hand as well, and we'll answer some questions. But please do make your way out there tomorrow. That'd be great. And if you have any comments, give us a call. 208-402-4915 is the number to dial. Leave us your voicemail message. Tell us your name, your town, where you're calling from in Idaho, and we'll play your voicemail on the air so that everybody can hear what you have to say. This opportunity sometimes is not often available outside of social media, I guess, but we have over 6,000. We think we crossed the 6,500 mark on YouTube in terms of subscribers. So there's a lot of folks out there watching, and we encourage you to keep sharing the program. You know, not everybody can watch live. I mean, we're on in the middle of the day. People are working. And so although we are grateful for those folks who do show up live, who do comment, maybe you are at work and you're able to have us on in the background, or you're just like me and you've got like 5 screens going on. I used to watch a lot. I would have, the Charlie Kirk show off to the side and while I was working, and I don't have that anymore. It's pretty sad. Although the guys that are there now, we're fond of them. We're friends with them, but there was nobody like Charlie. So anyway, and yesterday was Rush Limbaugh's the anniversary of his death, I think, or was it his birthday? It was some sort. I think it was the anniversary of his death, five years ago yesterday. And Rush was another Titan. Okay, a couple of news items. We were paying attention to what was going on in Utah because Utah was about to try and give their citizens a break on gas prices out there. And so they were going to eliminate taxes or reduce the tax at the pump, but they were going to make up that shortfall by taxing all of the energy and fuel and crude that was going to leave Utah and come to Idaho. And they were going to pass it on to us and raise our gas prices. Well, Speaker Moyle and the team over there decided to stand up to that. They had a resolution waiting in the wings, House Joint Memorial 12, that would have said some things to Utah and say that we were taking notice. But apparently Utah has backed away from that, and they're going to find another solution for their folks. So that's good news, at least for now. Gases will remain. Yeah, there it is in the Salt Lake Tribune. Utah backs away from gas tax showdown with Idaho. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that stuff, though, as well. Some other things making news. We talked about Estela Zamora and her exit from the Idaho Human Rights Commission. She was nominated and appointed back in the 90s under Cecil Andrus, the Democrat governor at the time. And she's just been floating. I'm sure she's been doing a fine job. Who knows, right? I mean, these commissions are filled with bureaucrats and people all over the place. But throughout the last 30 years, she's been on that commission. And she may have been vocal out in the community as a left-wing activist, but she certainly flew her colors loud and proud on social media a few weeks ago during all of the uproar that was happening in Minnesota. And because of this program, because of folks out there on the internet, you folks calling, Brian Allman and his article kind of exposing what had happened with Estella Zamora's reaction to what was going on with ICE and just being a total anti-ICE agitator and a left-wing activist. She had no business in being on a commission run with a government run by Republicans. So when she was up for renomination, you all called in, complained about her, and she got the boot, and everybody freaked out. The left was freaking out. Well, we published an article. It got mentioned in we got published in the Blaze, basically. So here's the Blaze article. You can go over to Blaze Media. Idaho is deep red, so why do leftist bureaucrats still run the show? And that was published about 7 days ago on February 11. And you got to go read it. You got to go share it. And we meant to bring it up to you a few when it happened, but we were so busy doing what was going on here, we didn't mention it. But we do want to make sure that you head over to the Blaze Media and read the op-ed over there. That same week, we had another op-ed appear in our local paper up here in Kootenai County, but that's a story for another day. If you come across it, you might enjoy it. Okay, let's bring in Brian Allman here. Brian, it's good to see you this fine Wednesday. I'm gonna see you this week as I arrive into your neck of the woods, so that'll be good. But we had a bill this morning that there's so much to dig into this because it's House Bill 634 and it died in committee today. And this would have said that school funds that are appropriated from the legislature have to be used for what they were intended. This same bill passed the committee, the House floor, and then it ran out of time in the Senate, and then it died today in committee. Walk us through what you saw this morning, and we've got a bunch of clips as well. But are you a little surprised at this as I am?
Yeah. Good morning, Matt. I was a bit surprised to see it go down, especially as hard as it did. As I was watching the debate on it, I was doing what I usually do and trying to predict how the people were going to vote. I was thinking it was going to fail 6-8. It actually failed 3-10. Somebody was apparently absent. So I'm not quite sure exactly what that means. I think most of the people debating, I know Representative Ehart, for example, had some concerns about it, and I'm sure she's wanting to see taxpayer dollars that are appropriated to school districts go to what they say they are. But I think there was some questions raised and some concerns raised, enough kind of confusion about the issue in that there's some issues with charter schools, how they handle funds. There's some issues with schools wanting to have the ability to handle emergency situations or unforeseen circumstances. So the bill passed last year. It was actually Wendy Horman, former state legislator who's now working in D.C. with the Trump administration, had the idea for this bill years ago and has been pushing it for a long time. And it actually, like you said, got through the House last year, didn't get a hearing in the Senate. Hopefully, Representative Harris is able to bring it back in some form because we do need this accountability. And I think there's evidence that school districts are at times playing fast and loose with taxpayer dollars. They're given money. The legislature says, okay, this is for teacher salaries, or this is for building construction or whatever. And then they say, well, we want to use it for something else over here. And I obviously there should be accountability for that.
Yeah, Brian. Well, and the bill is so simple. It's so simple. I'm going to read the entire bill, or at least the main gist of the bill right here, live on the program. You guys, if you want to throw it up, you can. It's House Bill 634, and this is the relevant section. All funds distributed by the State Department of Education to school districts or public charter schools that are specifically identified in statute or in an appropriation bill as intended for a certain purpose shall be used only for such purpose. Any funds intended for a certain purpose but used for another purpose shall be reimbursed to the state by the school district or the public charter school and deposited to the state general fund. If the school district or public charter school fails to make such a reimbursement, an amount equivalent to the misused funds shall be deducted from the state's next payment to the school district or public charter school pursuant to this chapter, and so forth. So basically, we send you money for this reason. You are to use it for that reason. If you use it for another reason, you got to pay it back. And I hear what you're saying, Brian, that the concern is, emergency things that happen in the off session, maybe a school district has to use, they need to find some money because, I don't know, a school bus broke down and they need to buy a new school bus. Like, who knows? Like, I don't know how much school buses cost, but let's say they're upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And they need a whole new fleet. I mean, I look at that and I say, okay, well, then use the money. And then when you come back next year, you have a reason for it. And then the legislature can appropriate money and backfill what you owe, I mean, look, for me, the excuses don't merit not pushing this forward, because the accountability is what we're after. And proof positive number one is this clip that we had to unearth once again. We played it on, this might be the most played clip on this show, but this is Representative Elaine Price 2 years ago in the House Education Committee, wondering what happened to the $330 million that were supposed to go to teachers that was appropriated back then. Let's watch this.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Tatro. Two questions. First is the follow-up on what Representative McCann was asking. And I want to understand that $330 million, you said it went to teachers. That's where it was supposed to go. It went to where the legislation said it was supposed to go. Is that correct?
Mr. Tatro.
Madam Chair, Representative Price, the legislation just says education. JFAC, rather than put 20 million here and 20 million there and have to track where it is, JFAC put it in the largest appropriation bill. But when all said and done, there's currently 7 bills. They still all get loaded into the system as public school support. So to find where that 330 is, that was what I was answering, is it's in the teacher's bill technically. But to argue, is it in teachers, is it in operations? Once everything gets transferred, it's everywhere. There is no way to track those specific dollars on the expenditure side.
330 million, Brian. It's everywhere. Once it's in, it's everywhere. Even if the legislature said it's going here, there, or what it's for, maybe it was a mistake of JFAC to just say we're going to put it in quote education. But at the same time, this is the whole reason why people are upset. And I'm upset. I'm watching this from the sidelines, right? I'm not in there. We're watching this from the sidelines, and we're hearing all of this nonsense about how do we hold private schools and how do we hold homeschoolers accountable? If they're going to get this tax rebate for the school choice bill, how do we hold them accountable? Well, how do we hold you accountable? How do we hold the schools accountable already?
For sure. I'm thinking of an analogy. It's, you send your teenager to school with, a couple bucks in cash to go buy lunch, and then it turns out that they spent it all on soda and didn't buy lunch. You might have a problem with that. And even if they try to make an excuse, well, yeah, technically this is food. Well, it's not going to fly. And I don't think it should fly here. And, to your point, you have people pulling out their hair saying, the $50 million appropriated for the parental choice tax credit, that's public money that's not being accounted for, and we don't know what they're using it for. But then you have $330 million going through the public schools that it's just out there somewhere, and we can't tell you what it was used for. We can't tell you where it is. Oh, well, trust us. You're not, nothing to see here.
All right. Well, let's watch Representative Kyle Harris present the bill, just so that we know, what I want them to be able to say it, not that we're filling their mouths with words. But here's Representative Harris presenting the bill.
Is a binding allocation. So if the legislature appropriates money for a certain thing, that's what the money is supposed to go to. If schools use that money for any other purpose, then they need to pay that money back to the State Department of Education. If they don't, then it comes out of their budget. I will touch on a few things that I've had in conversation with other people in this building, including other representatives. This is not the end all be all, right? It's not, okay, we gave you money for math, you can only use it for math. Technically, that's what's stated, but in JFAC, we have the ability to use spending authority language, which is being requested currently by the State Department on dedicated funds that allows them to use whatever's left after they've filled the need for, let's say, computers. And they have, $50,000 for technology. They spend 20 to get new computers. The rest of that in this language would allow them to shift that to dedicated fund spending. So all this bill is trying to do is keep the legislature in control of the funds and how that money is going to be dispersed. So as long as it goes through the process of the legislature, it lets schools still have that discretionary ability. But the intent originally out of the gate is if we give you this money, that's what it's for. If you use it and you don't need it, next year ask for it in the language. We'll give you the language in JFAC to give you that authority saying we don't need that much money. Because some schools don't take as much tech as other schools take, right? You have more shop class, less computer class. And so that allows these schools to still kind of function that way. It just has to come through the legislature to get the approval in order to use those monies outside of its intended purpose.
So, Brian, it sounded to me that he was saying, we will allocate to certain areas, but there's also the ability in JFAC to say, and then there are also just dedicated funds that go to the district and school that you can use for emergencies or whatever you need, right?
Sure, and that's how the process is supposed to work. You listen to Representative Harris talking here, and it seems obvious, right? According to the Constitution, it is the legislature that sets the state budgets and appropriates tax dollars for state agencies, which, in this context includes the public school system. But then you listen to the public school, people, like the person we're going to hear from here in just a moment, and they act like the job of the legislature is just to give them bags of cash, no questions asked, and don't worry about what we're going to do with it. Trust us, and in fact, they seem offended that the legislature might have questions about what it's being used for.
Exactly. So here it is, the aforementioned, the Democrat pushing back on some of this. Let's watch.
Chairman Hawkins and committee, for the record, my name is Andy Grover. I'm the executive director of the Idaho Association of School
This is somebody else.
and I'm
Sorry.
here today
This is
to
not the
oppose
Democrat.
House Bill 634. This House Bill 64 really replaces the decision-making process of our local school boards. And there's three things that really stand out. First of all, it eliminates our flexibility to deal with the students that we have. School leaders, we shift funds all the time within our programs to address real-time needs. I mean, you set a budget, at your house, and if your water heater goes out, you got to fix the water heater. When we get kids that come into the school, we have special ed kids that come in that can cost districts hundreds of thousands of dollars that we weren't planning on day one. And those dollars were already between $80 and $100 million behind in what we spend in Idaho and what we actually fund. And it's really hard when we start saying that, hey, here's rigid rules that if you don't spend these dollars this way, you have to send it back. Second is the cost of just increasing costs, and you can pick which one you want. Utilities, healthcare, other insurance, fuel, maintenance, all those different things. This bill would require us to reimburse all of our funds in the state that were determined outside their designated purpose. We've got $0 in operational funds for this fiscal current year, and it looks like we're going to get $0 next year. We have increases in Idaho Power at 7.8% last year and 7.8% this year. Intermountain Gas, 6% last year. I don't know what it is this year. Those dollars have to come from somewhere, and we don't charge money, right? It's what's allocated to us from the state. So when we get $0 in those, what it ends up being is a new property tax, because the only avenue we have is to run a supplemental levy. And lastly, it undermines the local governance and board authority. We have elected officials in each one of our 115, soon to be 116 districts that are set there to look over student safety, student learning, and the budget. And we do it. We do an audit every single year to show that we're spending those dollars. And
Yeah,
for these
Brian, again, local government, local control. But again, when we give it to the most local control, to parents, then it's, that's too local. Oh my goodness. We can't let parents be involved in this. I'm sorry. These arguments are just so sad. We can't pay our utility bills. Then you need to present a real budget. Don't schools run on a budget? Don't they submit their budgets to the superintendent? Isn't that the superintendent's job, is to look over their budgets? and then and then work with the state, what's her name, Critchfield, and the secretary, the secretary of education, whatever you want to call her, like superintendent, and come up with the budget that you need. I mean, that's what you're supposed to be doing all year long, right?
Right, and what he's saying there that sometimes we have unexpected expenses. Well, every state agency has unexpected expenses. You just got to adapt, and part of that adaptation.
And JFAC knows that though too. That's why they have this. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, well, yeah, JFAC meets throughout the year, a couple times throughout in between sessions. They grant supplemental requests. Hey, we need extra money for this. We didn't see it coming. We're not going to make a habit of this, we promise. and so they can have that appropriation. But yeah, I think there's a level at which school districts need to engage in responsible budgeting, and I think Representative Harris reiterated that point in his closing, that if you have something you need, you ask the legislature. But again, I feel like there's this sense that they take offense that the legislature is asking for accountability instead of just giving them a blank check.
Yeah, let's watch Representative Galaviz, the Democrat. Let's watch her exchange here with Tony Wisniewski, and Tony kind of sets this up really with basically this is the reason why he's there and I'm not. Let's watch this.
First of all, in order for us to set a valid budget for any department, we need to know what some of the expected expenses will be. In the case of schools, we need to know what the transportation costs are going to be. We need to know what the maintenance for utilities is going to be. We need to know what the salaries and benefits for teachers. We need to know what maintenance expenses are going to be. It sounds to me like we are trying to push for let's send $2 million to the school district and let them figure it out. How can we as legislators who are owners of the purse strings of the state and manage the taxpayers' expenditures going to talk to our taxpayers' constituents and say, we just give them money and let them spend it any way we want? We have to have estimates, valid estimates up front every year for all of these line items. And if we don't have a way of accounting for those expenditures, what are we doing here? Why don't we just let the schools say, give us a pot of money and let us spend it any way we want? That's the other extreme of what we're trying to do here. I think we need to have the schools and any other department that are allocated or appropriated funds to be accountable for the amount of money they need to spend in each one of these categories. And if it's not correct, then we need to make mid-course corrections or supplemental expenditures the following year. But to just open it wide up and leave it to discretionary funds is absolute foolishness, in my opinion. Thank you.
With great respect for Representative Wisniewski, I understand what you're saying. If we had those funds going out strictly as discretionary to where we had no transparency to how things were being spent, I could see how that would be problematic and difficult to explain to our local constituents and taxpayers. That's not the case, though. There are distinct line items, and there is an extensive audit that's done yearly by each of the charters in the school district where they have to account for how those dollars are spent. And there's a distinction between what is allowed, like what was allocated, their allowance, and then what was actual. And so you can see how much money they're spending in each of those distinguished pots. And so we do have some accountability there, and there is extensive oversight and regulation. So I just wanted to clarify that there is not a large pot of discretionary funds that go out without accountability or oversight. That's not happening. And so for that, I am a no on the substitute motion.
Sorry, Sonia. Where's that clip? Where's that clip? What did Tetro say?
Once everything gets transferred, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And when it gets transferred, it's everywhere. Come on. Tony outlined it perfectly, Brian.
Yeah, I thought Representative Wisniewski laid it out really well. One thing I noticed watching this hearing is Representative Galaviz. She's a school teacher. I think Representative Church has some, works in the public school system, if I recall correctly. Representative Veely, Representative Mike Veely, the new guy from out in eastern Idaho, he was on a school board. So you have people who come from that public school background. And on the one hand, I think that does give them more insight than your average legislator about how things actually work, because public schools are a very complex program, especially funding. I saw Representative Hawkins just yesterday say that every year he gets more confused about how the funding works, and hopefully he'll figure it out, because it is very complex. It's very, labyrinthian. However, it also gives them, I think, it makes them kind of draw lines in the sand, say, well, public schools, that's our team, that's our side. We're going to defend them, against these guys who don't know anything they're talking about, kind of some gatekeeping parochialism about it. I think it's important to listen to those perspectives, but also you need people on the outside, especially, legislators in their constitutional duty to make sure, to hold them accountable to how they're actually spending.
Yeah, they do, Brian. They absolutely do. All right, folks. That's going to have to do it for us today. It's in a short program, but Brian, let everybody know where we can follow you and what you're working on.
At Brian Ullman on X, gemstatechronicle.com. I just released an article yesterday looking at those two laws regarding Sharia law and other things. So check that out. And I'm looking forward to seeing you down here in the Treasure Valley tomorrow. Yeah, very good. Very excited. That's why we got to wrap. I got to get out of here. All right, Brian, we'll see you then. That's it, folks, for us today. Short program, but hopefully we packed it in with some good stuff. There was some other things that passed this morning in the Senate State Affairs Committee. There was a bill to remove the affidavit when you go to vote, that you have to actually show ID. We're also watching the SAVE Act in Congress, but if we can get rid of that affidavit here in Idaho, that'll be a big deal as well. So that was this morning. Leave us a message while we're out of here. 208-402-4915 is the number to dial. We're also available streaming on your just audio. If you want to hear us just by audio, if you're saving your data, you can do that over at idahosignal.live. idahosignal.live. That's your 24/7 looping just way to keep up with us. I don't have a script for this stuff, folks. Probably should, but I don't. I just wing it. We do it live. The AmericanSmokeCo.com. AmericanSmokeCo.com is where you can get some of your smoked salts. Fantastic for your steaks, your tri-tips, your veggies, asparagus, really nice. Your eggs. AmericanSmokeCo.com. Go over there and check it out and get some for your kitchen. And we'll see you tomorrow, Thursday, 12 p.m. at the Lincoln Auditorium. We'll see you then, folks.
Church bells rang through the valley air. It's the perpetual forever we'll sing. Plains to mountains high. America's heartbeats red, white, and blue. 250 years of me and you. Yeah, lift it up loud. Idaho proud. American truth.
A stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.